Maybe I'm not the only one who's noticed, but something seems seriously wrong with Andrew Wiggins.
Wiggins to the mid-range, as you might expect.
Wiggins is a bad basketball player.
See the ball move.
I would have loved to see Steph Curry's live reaction to this.
The same guy who was instrumental in the Warriors championship run 2 seasons ago, and a guy who's often looked like one of the best two-way players in the NBA. But it turns out there is something the Warriors are hiding from us this season about Andrew Wiggins. I have the truth about the situation, why it's happening, and why it could mean trouble. But first, it all started with how Andrew Wiggins revived himself in the first place. Andrew Wiggins went from being a bust to one of the best two-way players in the NBA. Just 4 years ago, Andrew Wiggins was labeled a bust in Minnesota. At just 24 years old, people were giving up on him. They called him low motor, said he lacked that dog in him, but little did they know what was about to come, because later in that season, Andrew Wiggins got the change of a lifetime. Even though the Warriors were, believe it or not, the NBA's worst team with Steph Curry out, Klay recovering a torn ACL, and KD having left in free agency the summer before. The Warriors landed Andrew Wiggins without anyone paying much attention to it, and little did anyone realize at the time, this trade would go on to help relight the fire under this dynasty in the coming years, as Andrew Wiggins would eventually go on to prove everyone wrong and establish himself as one of the best 3-and-D wings in the entire NBA. But how did Wiggins find himself in Golden State when people wrote him off in Minnesota? See, the Warriors have what I like to call a neutral offense. I don't mean that they're neutral in terms of scoring and firepower, because that couldn't be further from the truth. What I mean is that the pressure Steph Curry and Klay Thompson put on defenses often allows the guy over on the wing to face little pressure offensively, and most of the time, he's left wide open for threes. That's exactly why Wiggins shot a career-high 38% from 3 in his first season with the Dubs. And with the reduced load on the offensive end compared to his days in Minnesota, it allowed Wiggins to really strap down on the defensive end, which made him invaluable to the Warriors and a perfect fit in their system. You literally could not have scripted this any better. This put the Warriors in a position to rely on him more on the biggest stages. Wiggins' contribution to the Warriors' title run in 2022 was massive, especially what he did in slowing down Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in the finals. A huge plus for the Warriors that played a huge role in them winning that series. But with that being in mind, things didn't manage to stay the same, and neither did Andrew Wiggins, and that's the second stage of the video. Andrew Wiggins' role kept changing, and it didn't suit his play style. This brings us to where we are today. Andrew Wiggins is struggling to start the season, as you guys know by now after reading the title of the video. But what is going largely unnoticed is that Andrew Wiggins' role has been declining ever since the Warriors won it all in 2022. Last season, Andrew Wiggins was just as productive as he was during the title season, when he was actually in the lineup. And that's where the problem really takes shape. In 2023, Andrew Wiggins played just 37 games, and it forced the Warriors to shift all their overall focus and rely on other pieces of the team. With no Wiggins in the lineup, the Warriors missed him badly, especially on the defensive end, where they fell way down in the rankings compared to where they normally are. And with the increased expectations the Warriors had for Jordan Poole, he was often filling those minutes in the shoes of Andrew Wiggins as the Warriors slowly became an offensively driven, shot-happy team with bare minimum effort on the other end. It goes back to one of the hardest parts of sports for players. The longer you are out, the more your team tries to learn how to play without you, and the more you get left behind. Even though Wiggins came back in time for the postseason last year, was he really a difference maker? No. But can you really blame the guy if he was out for so long? It's just like trying to catch up in class when you missed a week of school. The feeling sucks, but that was last season. What about now? What is the Warriors' level of concern for one of their best players averaging his lowest totals across the board? Points, rebounds, field goal percentage, three-point percentage, all down. And here's the key stat. Wiggins is rocking the title of the worst PER in the NBA at just 7.3. Out of 85 players who have played at least 200 minutes this season, Wiggins is dead last. And on the defensive end, which has been Andrew Wiggins' calling card over his years with the Dubs, get this, he's the worst rated defender of the 154 qualified players. Something is really going wrong with Andrew Wiggins. But hold up, Steve Kerr doesn't seem too bothered. After a recent loss, he was all chill, saying, "Yeah, it's been a bit of a slow start, but defense is the name of the game for us. Wiggs' defense is crucial, and the better he locks it down on that end, the more his offense will flow. But despite Steve Kerr publicly showing his support for Wiggins, he went ahead and benched him in the fourth quarter of a game against the Detroit Pistons, which screams trouble. Speaking of which, seeing one of your stars struggle that badly, knowing there are potential candidates on the team that can take his spot, can be a tricky game to play. Actually, it's simple. It can potentially become a huge problem for the Warriors moving forward because of how they decided to stagger Wiggins' minutes with the rest of the Warriors moving forward. And that's what Stage 3 is all about. The addition of Chris Paul presents huge challenges for other players on the team, starting with Andrew Wiggins. We all understood the writing on the wall when the Chris Paul trade went down. Something had to give, and it was probably going to be the way the Warriors ran things offensively and their plan of attack. With Chris Paul firmly entrenched in the Warriors' flow of things, it's moved other players to play other positions, which has noticeably degraded the role of Andrew Wiggins so far this season. I just beat you over the head with the numbers, but if you consider that both Wiggins' assist rate and usage rate are by far the lowest they've been in his entire career, it tells you that Andrew Wiggins is hardly even touching the ball. He's not even touching the ball enough to pass it for an assist. And it largely comes back to the fact that the Warriors are playing a brand of basketball that caters to mainly Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, with Chris Paul staying on the ball most of the time, especially down the stretch of games. The issue for Wiggins is, how will he find his niche if the offense doesn't even call for his contribution? Look at it this way. The start of the season, solid as a rock thus far. Don't get it twisted. But let's talk endgame lineups. Steph, Klay, Draymond, no debate there. Chris Paul is going to close 10 out of 10 times given his experience and stature. And then as far as the rest of the guys go in the pool of players Steve Kerr has to choose from, GP2's locking it down on D, Moody's fearless, Kuminga's size and athleticism is a future all-star candidate. Now, where does that leave Wiggins? Especially if he can't adjust his game enough to work well off of the other Warriors led by CP3's playmaking. Optimistically speaking, it's still early. Andrew Wiggins is good enough to figure things out. It's too early to make any big calls, but right now, the Warriors are doing well with experimenting with different lineups. So don't even think about hitting the panic button, Warriors fans. The Warriors have time, way before things get seriously serious. That's beside the point that this team has another gear. And if they figure out how to use Andrew Wiggins, who helped them grab that trophy in 2022, late in games, it could turn this promising start into an absolute firestorm of talent. So, as a final takeaway, how worried should we really be with Andrew Wiggins playing poorly to start the season? I'll go out on a bit of a limb and give it only a 3 out of 10 on the worry scale. This is a new-look Warriors team, and it was only expected that at least one person would have to step back and work harder for their opportunity. I fully expect Wiggins to bounce back right into form. Hey, have you heard of having good problems? I think the Warriors are in that boat. Think about it. They've legitimately got 5 all-star caliber players on their team, and those guys are all selfless, super talented, and know their roles. What in the world is going on with Andrew Wiggins? The answer is, give it some time.